Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the book The Brethren by John Grisham. This is a standalone kind of legal and political thriller written by Grisham. I believe it was released around 2000, so it's a bit older, but I have been enjoying John Grisham's books as I've been reading them. This is the 8th Grisham book that I've read. I read the his Jake Brigance books, the kind of, it's not a trilogy, but the 3 books he released featuring that character. Loved all of them. Great books. Also read The Litigators. Loved it. I also read The Summons, which was okay. And I read The Pelican Brief, which was great. And The Rooster Bar, which was good, but man, did it affect me. And so now I'm reading The Brethren. And I had an absolute blast reading this book. It's just an interesting and engaging book, even though the characters are so stinking unlikable. This book, the basic premise of it is that there are these 3 judges who all went to jail for various crimes. One of them was embezzling, one of them filed taxes incorrectly, and one of them got in a drunk driving accident. And so all of them are in a federal prison, which is like the most minimum of minimum security prisons you could imagine. And the 3 of them basically form their own group that they call the Brethren, where they rule inside the prison and also start doing extortion outside of the prison as well. It's a very interesting idea. And I thought that the book was going to be all about inside the prison, what they're doing in terms of ruling on different inmates and their little disputes between each other. That's what it kind of was pitched as in the first chapter. And I was like, this is an interesting idea. I like this. Seeing how like hierarchies form even in prisons. And then that idea is summarily abandoned after that first chapter. The book is focused on the extortion scams that the 3 judges try to run on people. Basically, the extortion scams are that they will put out ads in gay magazines to try to lure middle-aged gay men who are not out of the closet into writing letters and discussing their feelings and then extorting them for money. And that's basically that premise. But there's also another element to the plot that does kind of tie in, but there's this man named Aaron Lake who decides to run for president. And Aaron is convinced by the CIA to do so because they feel that Russia is getting ready for war, and they believe that all the other candidates that are currently running will not properly prepare the United States, but the CIA feels that this guy could prepare the United States if he does everything correctly. And so they basically strong-arm him into running for president and basically tell him how to run his campaign so that they can get him into the office. And it is an absurd premise of how the CIA would be pulling the strings behind the election, but it is hilarious. It's funny to read, and it's lots of fun to read about. And those 2 plot lines, the president running and the Brethren, do have an intersection point at some point in the book. And it was not what I expected at the beginning. I thought they were going down a certain road I was like, this is where they're going to intersect, and this is what the thing is that the Brethren are going to catch on with this guy. And no, that's not what it was at all. It was something totally different. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's so genius. It's so obvious, but I didn't see it coming at all. I thought that was delightful. So, as I was mentioning, most of the characters in here are unlikable. There's the guy from the CIA, Teddy, who is like the guy pulling the strings, and because of his pulling the strings, you don't feel much sympathy for him. The Brethren are a bunch of jerks for what they do, their extortion scams, and so you don't feel any sympathy for them. The only sympathetic character in the book is the congressman who's running for president, Aaron Lake. And even he's not that sympathetic. He's sympathetic, but oh, you poor thing, you have millions of dollars and you're running for president and you're winning in the polls, you poor thing. Like, you have some sympathy for him because of some things that happen in his life, but you don't have a ton of sympathy for him. So it's, again, one of those Grisham books where you don't really feel like any of the characters are great in terms of liking them. But in terms of characterization, he does a good job with them. And so even though I felt a little bit disappointed that the book's kind of was, I think, pitched wrong, despite that, it's still super entertaining. As it is, it's super entertaining. And I actually would compare this to two other books of his that I've read. I would compare it the most to The Pelican Brief and The Rooster Bar. The Pelican Brief was a through and through political thriller that had a few tiny legal elements. And that's what I would say The Brethren is. This book is a political thriller that has some legal elements in it. So in terms of that designation, I think they're close together. However, both The Brethren and The Rooster Bar are about these lawyers and or judges trying to run these extortion type, not extortion, but like these illegal scams. They're trying to run scams, basically, in both of them. In this one, it's these people who didn't actually pass the bar, who didn't complete college, who are pretending to be lawyers and get money from people. In The Brethren, it is judges who are extorting people for money from behind bars. And so they kind of have the similar characterizations, similar attitudes. You feel the same way towards the characters. So those are the comparisons. However, I would say with The Rooster Bar, it kind of hit close to home for me as someone who has student loans, and I felt stressed reading the book, and I was really angry. Like, I was physically angry at the characters in the book because I felt like they're cheating the system, and I didn't like that. Whereas in The Brethren, I feel like I don't like the characters of The Brethren, but I actually am okay with them a little bit in the sense that, you know, everyone in this book is bad for the most part. There's a few people who get caught up in the extortion scam that you feel bad for, I guess, some like minor characters that you hear about, but the Brethren, the lawyers involved, the CIA, the congressman, they're all, you don't feel too much sympathy for them. I will say that there are times where I felt I knew where the story was going, and you generally kind of, you can see once the pieces come together in the first third of the book, you can see the general direction that the story is going, and so you can kind of follow it, but you don't know exactly how it's going to get there, and you don't know specifically the end result. You have a general guess they're going to solve the extortion stuff. The congressman might make it out unscathed. You don't know for sure, but you think that's what's going to happen. And so the book ends up becoming just kind of this thrilling, oh my goodness, I need to find out how. I need to find out why. And he does a good job of keeping the audience on the edge of their seat. There's not a ton of fluff in the book. There's a few times where he really gets into the minutia of the election stuff, and he could have cut those out for speed of the book, and it wouldn't have affected it wouldn't have hurt the book to cut it out, and in fact might have made it speed through faster. However, as someone who loves campaigning and loves politics and loves reading about this type of stuff, I found it absolutely delightful. So I was loving when I read that stuff, but I can recognize people who don't love that may not enjoy it as much. So those are my. One more thing I'll mention. I went to Goodreads when I wrote my review of this, and I saw someone that just posted the meanest type of thing in their review, and they said that the people who like this book are people who move their mouth while they're reading books, and it's basically that kind of an insult is meant to say that if you enjoy books like this, you're not a real reader and you don't enjoy real literature. And that's kind of that kind of quote bothered me. I understand why the person said it, because they feel that this isn't up to snuff in terms of literary quality. And you can have opinions on literary quality, but it's very rude to attack audiences, and it's very rude to attack people who are reading books and enjoying books and telling them that they're wrong for enjoying those books. this isn't my favorite Grisham book. I think it's kind of middle of the road. It's a great book, but it's not a favorite. But I would in no way want to disparage someone who it's their favorite, someone who really enjoys this book like me. And so it's just that gets into an area of literary criticism that just really bugs me. So and I don't normally see things like that like make me angry like that, but that one did it. But anyway, those are my thoughts on The Brethren by John Grisham. I really enjoyed it. Lots of fun, really interesting book. However, not a favorite Grisham because it doesn't have quite as much depth as some of his better books. But still, I loved it. So if you've read The Brethren, let me know your thoughts on it. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? What did you think of some of the twists? What did you think of how they handled some of the things towards the end of the book? Let me know all those thoughts in the comments section down below. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.